They told you it was better than a bank. They told you your money was working for you, earning interest while you slept, growing quietly in the background like a financial dream finally made real. And millions of people believed them. Why wouldn't they? The website was sleek. The CEO was charismatic. The yields were extraordinary. And the promise was simple. Put your crypto in, earn up to 18% annually, and withdraw whenever you want. No fine print. No catch. No risk. But there was a catch. There was always a catch. This is the story of Celsius Network, a company that called itself the future of banking, a company that raised billions from ordinary people who trusted it with their life savings, their retirement funds, their children's college money, and a company that, behind closed doors, was running one of the most reckless financial operations in modern American history until the day it wasn't able to hide it anymore. To understand what happened at Celsius, you have to understand the world it was born into. In 2020 and 2021, crypto was everywhere. Bitcoin was hitting all-time highs. Ethereum was surging. A new financial revolution was being announced every single week. And into that frenzy stepped Alex Mashinsky, a loud, confident, relentlessly optimistic entrepreneur who had one message for the world. Banks are the enemy, and Celsius is the solution. Mashinsky had a gift. He could make complexity feel simple and risk feel invisible. He appeared on YouTube every Friday for what he called AMA sessions, Ask Mashinsky Anything, where he would look directly into the camera and tell hundreds of thousands of viewers that their money was safe, that Celsius was different, that the traditional financial system was broken, and he had built something better. People loved him. They called him the People's Banker. They sent him thank you messages for changing their lives. What they didn't know was what was happening behind the screen. Because while Mashinsky was smiling into cameras and promising safety, Celsius was doing something it had never fully disclosed to its customers. It was taking their deposited crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum, stablecoins, and deploying it into some of the most volatile, high-risk corners of the decentralized finance world. It was lending assets to hedge funds and trading desks. It was participating in complex yield farming strategies that carried enormous downside exposure. And critically, it was using customer funds as collateral to borrow even more, layering risk upon risk in a system that was, at its core, completely dependent on crypto prices continuing to rise. But what happened next shocked the entire financial world. In May 2022, the Terra Luna ecosystem, a $60 billion algorithmic stablecoin experiment, collapsed almost overnight. The shockwave ripped through the entire crypto market. Prices fell, then fell further. And then Celsius started to crack. Quietly at first, unusual delays in withdrawals, vague blog posts about market conditions, careful language designed to calm without informing. But inside the company, the truth was already visible to those who knew where to look. The positions were underwater. The collateral was thinning. And the machine that had promised endless yield was beginning to seize. On June 12, 2022, Celsius made an announcement that sent tremors through the crypto community. It was pausing all withdrawals, swaps, and transfers between accounts. More than $4 billion belonging to approximately 1.7 million users was frozen. Just like that. No warning. No prior disclosure. No exit. People who had deposited their savings, not to speculate, but because they had been told this was safe, suddenly could not access their own money. A retired school teacher who had put in her entire emergency fund. A young father who had converted his savings to earn yield for his family. A small business owner who had been promised liquidity at any time. They were all locked out, and no one at Celsius was answering questions. The silence was deafening, and it was damning, because what emerged in the weeks and months that followed painted a picture far darker than a simple business failure. Internal documents revealed that senior executives had been warned repeatedly about the fragility of Celsius's strategy. Risk officers had raised alarms. Employees had quietly left the company. And yet Mashinsky had continued, publicly, loudly, aggressively, to market Celsius as safe.
Celsius is safer than any bank.
As revolutionary, as the antidote to financial corruption. The very thing he claimed to be fighting, he had quietly become. In July 2022, Celsius filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The filing revealed a $1.2 billion hole in its balance sheet. It revealed that in the days before withdrawals were frozen, certain insiders, including Mashinsky himself, had withdrawn millions of dollars from the platform. Ordinary customers had no such warning. They were left holding nothing. The fallout was devastating. Thousands of people flooded social media with stories of financial ruin. Forum posts that had once celebrated Celsius as life-changing were now filled with grief, rage, and disbelief. Lawyers were hired. Lawsuits were filed. Congressional hearings were called. And in January 2023, Alex Mashinsky was arrested and charged with fraud, accused of deliberately deceiving customers about the safety of the platform and the health of the company's finances while personally enriching himself in the process. But for most of the 1.7 million customers who lost access to their funds, the legal process brought little comfort. Bankruptcy proceedings are slow. Recovery is partial. And the damage, financial, emotional, psychological, is not something a court settlement can fully repair. What makes the Celsius story so haunting is not just the scale of the collapse. It is the intimacy of the betrayal. This was not a faceless corporation trading abstract instruments in a distant market. This was a man who looked people in the eyes, on camera, every week, and told them he was different, that he cared, that their money was safe with him, and they believed him, because they wanted to believe that finally, someone had built something honest. The collapse of Celsius is a reminder that in finance, the most dangerous words are not the ones buried in fine print. They are the ones spoken with a smile, directly into the camera, by someone who has already decided that your trust is just another asset to be leveraged. Because in the end, they called it a bank. But it was always a trap.